Okay, on that weird note.
Okay.
You go live. Are you ready? Let's go.
This is the Impact Hour, powered by Easy Africa, where real change meets real conversation.
And we're back. This part always makes me stressed out. I don't enjoy the re-announcing thing, but it's fine. We're back. I'd like you guys all to know that Sam and I did Google what a fascinator was. Just because we need to know.
I know you want one, but I definitely will not wear one.
Okay. I think I'm gonna bring one into the office next time, and then we'll
let's
just
take
try.
pictures.
Yeah, just try it out.
Yeah. Let's make an edible fascinator, one that you can eat. Have you seen those baking shows where the takis look like actual takis,
Is it
but
cake?
they're actually cake?
Isn't that the show? Is it cake? Is it?
Yeah.
I think
Let's
it's cake.
do that.
Something cake.
Let's do that.
Okay, let's do that. Next business idea, because entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Our next guest is a great friend of Easy Africa.
And he's also a techie, right?
No, he
weird.
just
He's
seems
like
to
a
know a
techie.
lot about tech. He is a music
tech
artist,
guy.
multi-platinum award winner. Like, honestly, one of the coolest people we know. He is so willing to always support East Africa and all that we do. He has been on our podcast, on our radio station, on our cooking show. So such a
I've
household.
never been on their cooking show. Ever. I was never invited. I didn't even know there was a cooking show. This is how you out me in public. I thought I was also a great friend of his. I was never invited.
So we have Dada here today. He is just, like I said, he's an artist who specializes in reggae hip hop. I learn a lot about it every time we speak, because I didn't really realize.
You look so uncomfortable when you say the word hip hop.
I didn't know if it was reggae hip hop or hip hop reggae.
Oh,
Did you
okay.
see me go?
Okay. Now I didn't know. Is there a difference?
I don't know, Sam.
Okay, we'll
I
ask him.
fully second guessed myself as I was saying it.
We'll ask he's like a tech nerd, hip hop rapper type.
He's multifaceted.
He's multifaceted. I like that word.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is such an awesome intro. I really love that. Thank
She's
you.
been practicing for a month.
Okay.
Well, also, I've
I'm impressed.
introed you so many times now.
But it always feels like
Okay.
the first, and it's always so amazing.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, firstly, thank you for always just being such a champion of Easy
No
Africa.
problem.
It is really nice to see our entrepreneurs grow and change throughout the years, and I think that's something that we really champion on this platform, is that we want to see you through ups, downs, left and right, but also that you are such a fun human to follow, such a fun human to speak to. You come from a family business, you do so many things. You are one, an artist, but then two, also a man in business in the arts, which is very, very interesting. So for people who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, so much that's going on. So like you said, I'm a multi-platinum, multi-genre recording artist, hip-hop, reggae, dancehall, so it's a whole mishmash going on over there. The first South African distributed by Bob Marley's Tough Gong International. I'm also the proud holder of 2 official Mandela songs commissioned by CCA, Content Connect Africa, and MTN, Viva Mandela and the Viva Mandela remix with the Mahotela Queens. Then I also did a tribute to Mama Winnie Mandela when she passed, which was commissioned by the Johannesburg region of the ANC for the All Black and Dukes event. Besides that, I am the co-owner of Rap Cut Studio. I also do speaking at the Academy of Sound Engineering, speaking about how to monetize and make a living in this digital age when you're in the music industry. I'm also a radio host, podcast
Listen to that
host,
voice.
so many things. So yeah,
This guy makes me want to make my voice thicker.
Is it not one of those voices
It's
where
got a great voice. Wow.
when somebody speaks, when this type of voice speaks and you're in public, you turn around and go,
Just for a moment, I forgot I was straight.
My brother.
Oh. Yeah.
So I like really talking about, and I feel like we talk about it in every platform, but I really do like talking about how you are trained, you went to school, you fully know the business inside and out, but also that you've been able to branch out genre-wise, right? So I didn't know what dancehall was before I met. I didn't know what dancehall was. I feel like isn't dancehall
How
like
do
a
you
very
say that
UK
stuff
thing?
publicly and still be allowed to drive?
Is it not like a very UK thing?
Well, no. Dancehall, it's quite a debated thing. So when you look at reggae music, dancehall is an offshoot of reggae music, but dancehall is not really a genre, it's a place. And it's the
See, Sam,
evolution
it's a
of
place.
reggae for the young generations.
Did you know it was a place?
I knew that. I've been listening to dancehall for so long, man.
We both saw him.
And listen, for me, I'm like going back to guys like Chakademas and Pliers, and like Sweat and all those guys. I mean, like those were the like Bricks and Lace. All of kind of. You see, I know a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. And Peter Tong and all these guys. There's just so many iconic. Sean Paul, of course, now and everything and everything else. But I mean, you listen to a song and you put a dancehall artist in it, and it elevates that song to the next level. I'm sorry, it takes that song on another sphere. That. You know what I mean?
So I was actually gonna say to you, like, what I'm really finding out in the music space, especially across the continent right now, is that yes, there are these niches. I'm a piano, Afrobeats, dancehall, whatever. But it also feels like these genres. These genres are bleeding into one another, and there's collaboration between the two. I think that there always is going to be narrative of like, we own this genre, or this is where it originated from. But I think for the most part, as listeners, I'm really enjoying this like fusion that's coming through it.
Of course, yeah.
As an artist, what are you finding in that space? Does it feel like there is still this need to say that this sound originated in this space, or?
I think it's a regional question. For artists that are in a region, they want to own a sound. You want to be proud and say this is something that we created. But if you look at it from a global point of view, music is consumed all over the world. They're not really interested in the origin, but how good is the music? What is the sound? What is the feeling that it invokes? So I think that ownership is more for the creative. We sit and we squabble about this, who came up with these ideas, who owns this method of production. But for the listener, it's whether it's good or bad, they're not worried where it comes from. So, debated.
Yeah, because I think, at least for me, what I'm trying to understand is, like, we were talking about Spotify and Apple a few weeks ago. I'm trying to understand, as a consumer, how do I do so in a way that benefits my artist, right? Like, that is the best for you. But then also it feels like, and especially like TikTok, Black Twitter, guys, we can be so ugly to each other on these platforms. It feels like the artists themselves are like, oh my gosh, celebrate my music, listen to it everywhere. And in our little sects, we're like, no, Afrobeats is from Nigeria, or I'm a piano can only exist in South Africa. Like, it feels like sometimes as a consumer, you're being pulled in different ways. And so it's really exciting for me to hear that, yes, as the creative, you deserve to have ownership of that space. But also that you are creating something that is just going into like the world, and to be consumed that way. Because I don't know, and maybe it's a question for you. What is it looking like continentally? Do you feel like we're collaborating more, or do you feel like we're?
I feel, look, when you look at Africa as a continent, our sound has always been taken, modified, and used in different ways. So, for example, if you look at reggae music is the modification of the African drum beats that gives you the one rhythm that now then creates reggae music. Hip hop is then taking the one beat, multiplying it. So you're adding on to the one beat, creating the two beat, and that was the beginning of hip hop. So all of that is now traced back to African music. So when I look at us continentally, I would say that we're only now starting to get on a massive scale the respect that we deserve. And when I say on a massive scale, I mean we did have Fela Kutis and Yuma Sikelas and Miriam Makebas, but nowadays there's so many more African artists that are breaking through on the international scene and getting recognition, and not having to use an American sound or a European sound, but still keeping it authentic to themselves, which is a beautiful thing to see. But as I said, music is something that's continually reinventing itself, and the sound will continually reinvent itself. And even what is traditional now may not be viewed as traditional to the next future listening generations. And so it's great to see Africa always being at the forefront of creating something new. Afro is a new genre. Amapiano, a new genre. Tom, a new genre. We've always got something new. So we're very creative, and I'm excited always to see what the next generation will bring.
I've got to ask this question because I think there's this very interesting thing that's happening in the school culture that we don't talk about, right? So obviously I am colored from Cape Town, and so is my children, my wife, and the reason I state that is for the reason related to this question. So it was about a couple of weeks ago. I went up to my kids and I said to them, listen, what are you guys into at the moment? So I said to my 15-year-old daughter, hey, do you ever watch SABC? And she was like, Dad, there's no S before the A, right, in the alphabet. So she doesn't know what SABC is.
Yeah.
Doesn't grow up with it, she's on her phone.
Mm-hmm.
But then my 7-year-old, my 8-year-old, and my 11-year-old boys, I did this tricky thing where I said, hey, listen, who was it? It was this guy that had the white guy that was into Kwaito but died.
Oh, yes, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, you know I'm talking. Costa Teach.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, the idea was like Justin Bieber or Costa. And my kids were like, Costa. You know, and then I said, and then I made Nike was the other song, and all my kids chose locally produced music.
Lovely.
And I was just, it was such a weird moment for me to realize that my kids understand the connection to what's local is cool,
Yeah.
the styles and stuff. And my generation was, if it was foreign, it was better.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I was wondering how you reflect on that, and have you seen that shift in and I think there's a level of patriotism we don't talk about,
Yes.
that's culturally making us patriotic.
Of course.
That when it's brand South Africa, and the young people seem to find really cool ways of seeing it, imagining it.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
I do quite a bit, and it's a beautiful thing, but it's also scary because that can be tied back to how T was saying that when we hear something coming from Nigeria, we tend to cut it off. And I like how you said it also ties into political thinking in a way, because that's what's being fed into the system, and that's what is influencing our artists. So when these artists are they're creating something that is very proud of where they are, but at the same time, it can also be cutting off the rest of the continent. So it becomes a double-edged sword.
But we are living in a world at the moment where we are, and Trump is really at the driving that, where national interests are important. And I'm saying, if my son, who his name is Cooper, and his best friend is literally, I think is Chulo, his best friend is Chulo.
My dad doesn't know my friends' names either. What is with that?
No, but because we don't spend time talking to your friends. But my point is, Chulo, I think he's Pedi or Twana or something.
Yes.
But the point of the matter is, he's heavily being influenced by him. He speaks like him, his mannerisms, and vice versa. And when we meet the parents, they go, "Oh, this is Cooper. My son doesn't stop talking about him." I just think that if it means that Cooper grows up and buys your music,
Yeah.
and makes sure that we don't have another artist starving and dying,
Yeah.
that I would rather have national interest and say, maybe start in South Africa and then learn about Nigerian music. But I'm sick and tired of as a journalist for the last 25 years, of hearing of another South African artist or another local artist dying in poverty.
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of that.
I feel exactly the same as you, and that's why I say it's such a difficult conversation, because, for example, South Africa has a very long and storied history with reggae music. We look at the iconic Lucky Dube, world over renowned.
Apple Seed, the name, and all of the, Bongo Muffin and all of them.
100%. Lucky Dube had never received a Sama Award or any recognition in South Africa.
Crazy,
in fact,
right?
when Lucky Dube was getting booked towards the end of his life, I wouldn't say career because his career is still going until now.
Yeah.
Towards the end of his life, he was getting booked on Tuesday nights in South Africa. Now, if anyone is in the music industry listening, you'd know a Tuesday night is not one of the best nights to perform. Nobody's out there. But when he leaves South Africa and he's in Australia and he's in Europe, he's doing stadiums, he's doing amazing things. So sometimes the nationalism for an artist can actually hold you back because you're holding on to a place that doesn't want to hold on to you. Your sound is not being listened to. You're not getting shows. But out there, people are giving you respect. So it becomes difficult.
But I think that messaging is back then. I think the nationalism I'm talking about now is where young people are and I think I started seeing that moment when in Kalakata by Mendoza was being sang by white schools.
Yeah.
And white kids were dancing to it, and we were talking about crossover music.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that this generation, my kids' generation, that when they walk in or they download, that a locally produced song by a local artist has the exact same value as an American artist with a little bit more money.
I think if you're saying emotional value, yes, because also remember it's coming from the exact same platform, Spotify, iTunes, whatever it is. And the South African market, they value our adverts, they value our usage as less. So immediately you're going to be getting less payment than an American artist. That's to begin with. Then number two, your music is not valued on those platforms because music is now it's a dime a dozen. You could go on Spotify and find 1 million songs.
Yeah.
It's not specialist. You're not putting 100 rand for an album that you're going to listen to from beginning to end. So
Which
people
we
are
used
not
to do.
100%. So we're not as invested in music anymore. Even for an artist, you don't really feel the need to create an album, because who wants to listen to an album? You'd rather make a single that's going to play on radio that can get you more traction, more shows. It seems like a better option. So music is slowly losing its value worldwide to begin with.
And I think your value is probably in getting those endorsements, those live venues, filling out those stadiums.
True.
To your point, because the music doesn't hold the same space it used to.
100%, and that's why we start looking outside. And the reason why I use reggae music to begin with as an example is that reggae music was declared as global heritage by the UN. So that's a big thing. I don't know any other genre that's declared as global heritage, and that's also an island that has a population smaller than Soweto, saying that we don't want to hold on to the rights of reggae music. It's not ours, it's the world's, it's for everybody. And I find that as a powerful statement that'll take reggae way further than if it was just caged in the island. So I think as a South African artist, we need to look at our music in the same way. Amapiano is not only for guys that come from Pretoria. Amapiano is for the whole of South Africa, and then from South Africa for the whole of Africa, and then we want the world to also jump on. So let's take it as far as we can. Never limit yourself by closing yourself to a region, because the world is way bigger than that.
I think also like the middle point here of what both of you guys are saying is, one, yes, create international spaces, because unfortunately, and I think like you said worldwide, but especially for South African artists, they are incredibly undervalued here. So as much as people listen to their music, they're not getting paid as much as the Justin Biebers and everybody else. That is a societal problem. That is something that the Department of Arts and Culture needs to step up in. That's something that we as consumers need to step up in and be willing to
We
pay.
need to become conscious consumers.
And be willing to pay to see our local artists, right? Be willing to show up for them, buy their music, buy their merch. If they're an entrepreneur, follow them, whatever. But in the same breath, I do think that there is still some, like for me personally, I feel like my uni and like while I was in uni, I listened to so much local music that like when people see me, they're like, oh my gosh, but you're just like this Indian girl, how do you know this song or this song or this song? And it's more like, oh, it's exactly what you're saying about Cooper, right? My friends look and speak a certain way, and so therefore I assimilate and look and speak a certain way. In doing that, I have learned so much about the country. I know about where these artists are from, why they sound the way that they do, why in Cape Town the remixes do as well as they do, because you're like, oh my gosh, the song is so old, but when it's like by a Cape Town DJ, you're like, oh my gosh, I love this. And so creating a space where we as consumers then choose our local artists, which then forces hopefully the structure to then see you guys, because it makes me really sad, like you're saying, like when you hear about artists who are not being seen or valued, or when they walk into rooms they're being undercut because you're local. Why do you need to get this free? Why do you need to do something else? And so I'm really encouraged by Cooper and his friends. I'm really encouraged by
it was mind blowing.
Awesome.
It was mind blowing.
And I'm really encouraged about like where music and the arts is going, but I do think it's also you're able to advocate for yourself because you know the business behind it.
I'm about to take the words out of my mouth. I was going to ask that
There
question.
are artists that don't know this. They don't know how to advocate for themselves here. They don't know how to generate income here. And it's not to say that it's always sunshine and rainbows for you either. But I think that is something that we're missing. Our artists themselves are not
It's
educated.
the business of the arts.
Yeah.
It's been understanding that more now, right?
100%. Look, at the Academy of Sound Engineering where I studied, I was in class with AKA. I was in class with the guys from Josie. I was in class with the guy Nick Essentials from Freshie Phonic and Essentials. He was also in the class. So you can see the type of guys that went and what they did with it. It wasn't just an education in how to create music, but how to conduct yourself within the industry. And they went very far with what they're doing. And I think that the industry is also built off ignorance. Not a lot of companies want an educated artist because you can't exploit an educated artist.
Sure.
So it's a very difficult one. You can educate yourself, but by educating yourself, you're gonna have to then promote yourself, distribute yourself. You're gonna have to do everything.
But it also
yourself.
means you're walking into a boardroom knowing you can smell the BS coming a mile away because you're now educated.
100%.
And that is a dangerous place to be as an artist.
100%.
Because then you get labeled as being difficult, as being all these other things that so many artists have been sidelined. Because to your point, I think for the longest time, the less educated they are around their royalty fees, what the structures look like, the better off the labels are.
100%, and the easier it is to manage them. If somebody doesn't know what they're making, I could give you any amount and tell you this is what it's worth, and you'd accept it. But if you know the value, it becomes an argument.
And a classic example for me was with R. Kelly. After so many years of, I mean, obviously he's now in hospital because he tried to commit suicide or whatever. But my point is, after so many years, he only had $2 million. And I mean, if you know how many hits R. Kelly had.
Yeah.
And it's because he's functionally illiterate. He can't read, he can't write. So he was exploited. And look at managers like what Don King did with all the boxes.
Exactly.
So there are many examples of these cautionary tales of not being educated, going into a boardroom and thinking. And for some artists, and I think you've seen this, I love how you started off by saying, I've got all these accolades, these awards. For some artists, it's just the idea that they have a contract from a record label. I've met so many artists as a journalist. They signed to big labels that have left because nothing happened to their projects. They were kept there for 3 years. It was nice to say I'm signed to a record label, but nothing happened to their careers.
True. I know a lot of artists that have been flying high, receiving awards as an independent. They sign with a major record label and then they get placed on the bench. And now all of a sudden you're not releasing, and then your career goes into nowhere. You become a background figure. You're A&R. You're no longer an artist. So you have to be careful, but as well, desperation can make people do crazy things. If you're hungry, you take any deal.
Yeah. And I think, you know what, it speaks to such a bigger conversation. I mean, it's artists, it's young sportsmen. Like, managers are really scary. And that's
managers are scary.
Managers
you can say that
really,
again.
really scary. And the contracts that people find themselves in are incredibly scary.
Except
so I think...
No, but she's not a manager, she's a momager.
But also...
Momagers, as Thingy was saying, Chris Jenner, momagers are different. They fight and kill for their children.
But it's also why you guys started Rough Studios,
Yeah.
right? It's the reason that you are advocating for your artists and teaching them how to do that, because not everybody has your mom, right?
100%.
Not everybody's able to walk into these rooms, and I don't know, it's a sad place we find ourselves in, but I'm also hoping with AI, with TikTok, with all of these things, that like artists will be able to advocate for themselves more. But we do have to wrap up. So where can people find you? Where can they listen to you? All the things.
So if you want to find me, social media is one of the best places. It does not matter which pages you like, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, does not matter. Handle is always the same. It's at Don Dada Music. That's at DONDADAMUSIC. Alternatively, go to my webpage, dondadamusic.com, which has links to my social media as well as links to all of my music, some of my podcasts, a whole bunch of stuff. So the option is up to you. If you want my music, Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere that has digital music, I am there.
Stunning. Thank you so much for the show, Sarah.
Yes, and where can people get hold of the journey that EC Africa's on?
We are www.ecafrica.net. That's our website, but we're also EC Africa on all social media platforms.
Okay, that's a wrap of the show. We'll be back again tomorrow with another jam-packed show. Don't forget, it's all about how to fix South Africa. That's just after 10 with Camden Belay. And then doing good business with Hilton Tennyson. From me, it's a wrap. Remember, be good, do good.